title of the video is "The Glazers Need to Go." I'm sure you're fed up if you're hearing about it as well. I'm just fed up about hearing about the whole Glazers situation. Now I feel that we've been left in the dark as fans, and I think it just shows that the Glazers don't care about the fans. They don't care about the football club.
Yeah, I just think that, like you said, they've been left in the dark as fans. I mean, they've never really cared about us as fans. I think the fact that this last week has sort of like been a lot quieter than what it normally is. Now, I don't know if that's a good thing. Usually, there'd be like Friday, we would expect to have heard something like Friday night. Like there's people talking the Glazers are on about entertaining another round of bids. I don't think that's the case. I genuinely do believe that, the information that I've had is that, Qatar have won, and it is just a case of announcing it. There was a rumour last night, late on Twitter, where somebody had said that they've been told by somebody at the club that it's going to be announced today. Now, obviously, the New York Stock Exchange doesn't open until 2:30, but that's open till about 10:30 tonight, our time. So, an announcement could come today. There's talks of a protest outside Old Trafford tomorrow for the mega store for the kit launch. What that will achieve, I don't know. They've been in the club for 18 years, and they've never, the fact that they've given money for players and stuff has never been an issue for me. They've always sort of like backed the manager to a degree. I just think it's the people that are running the club that are making mistakes. Now, I think I think it's a good thing. Like this year now, we've put a bid in for Mount. We had 3 bids rejected, and we've walked away from it. It's not because we can't afford to. It's just that we think that Chelsea are trying to pull our pants down, which they are. Mason Mount can leave for free next year, and we've offered 55 million, which is more than enough. And we've decided to leave that offer on the table and walk away. It's good that Mount wants to come to us. I think he's a decent player, but he's not worth like 55 million. But I mean, in terms of the Glazers selling, my understanding is that when the sale is announced, if we sell and the sale is announced, that my understanding is that it would take a further 8 to 12 weeks. Now, as far as we know, the Glazers might have decided after Sheikh Jazim put his last bid in. Now, when Sheikh Jazim put his last bid in, for me, it's gone very quiet from there. It's like it was a take it or leave it offer. Jim Radcliffe has just gone extremely silent. I've read reports that Radcliffe has been told that they're going with Qatar. Maybe that's why we're seeing silence from Radcliffe. Radcliffe's buyout was going to be a leverage buyout, which the Premier League have now sort of like put a hold on, and they said that can't happen. So maybe, Radcliffe has decided to leave it alone and not put another bid in. I think it would be a good thing that if Radcliffe has done that and he is out of the bidding, I think it would be a thing for him to come out and say that, I'm no longer interested in the club. But then if he does that, it goes into overdrive, and Sheikh Jazim is then seen as the front runner. I mean, as I said to you, if the club has been sold, no announcement would come from the club directly. It would be given up by the Rain Group first, and then a statement issued from the club. My understanding is that this 8 to 12 weeks thing is for the Premier League fit and fair test, which could have been done in the last week. I mean, we're coming up to now 2 weeks this Thursday where Rio Ferdinand did a video saying that he'd heard that Qatar was done and they were the new owners, and it was days, if not hours, away from being announced. Nothing happened with that. But on the same day then, the 9-2 Foundation registered their company on Companies House. with Sheikh Jazim as a director, and other people named as directors on there. The share price went through the roof. I was in work and I started to get a bit excited because at one stage I think the share price went up to about £26, but then it kind of fizzled out then and nothing happened. I thought we were going to get something then, but it's kit launches tomorrow, I think, and there's the earnings are announced tomorrow. So today would coincide with, if an announcement is coming, today would be a good time to make it. If it comes out tomorrow, that it's not going to come out that we are financially in a mess and we need ownership. But if the figures come out tomorrow and they're a little bit, tomorrow might prompt an announcement. But with that rumor that was circulating online that the 26th, that it was going to be announced today. Today is the 26th. The 26th of May is synonymous in Man United history. 26th of May, we won the treble. 26th of May is Sir Matt Busby's birthday. Sheikh Jazim, his foundation is called the 9-2 Foundation after the class of 92. There are talks that if Sheikh Jazim comes in, he wants to bring former players on board and have, as part of the structure of the club, the restructuring of the club. Whether or not that's a good thing or a bad thing, I don't know, but I'm sure that'll be another video if this takeover does go ahead. But for me, if he's a Manchester United fan, just because there's no news, the way the saying goes, no news is good news. The fact that it's been so quiet, that tells me that there's something going on. Now, people are saying we've had conversations in the last 12 hours about signings. We haven't made any signings. None of the rivals have made big signings, Liverpool have signed McAllister, but Gundogan has left Man City. Nobody's mentioned that. Gundogan has left Man City and joined Barcelona. Arsenal, Arsenal are looking at Declan Rice. Man City are looking at Rice. We are looking at Declan Rice. Nobody's really made any big moves at the moment, but my understanding of it is that the fact that we haven't signed anybody and people are losing their minds over it. I don't get that, because if Qatar have got the club, let's use Harry Kane for an example, yeah?
Yeah.
So we put a bid in for Harry Kane. Ten Hag wanted an established striker. We put a bid in for Harry Kane. We publicly then came out and said that we don't see Harry Kane happening because of the money the Spurs want for him. Now, I can see Harry Kane still potentially come in, but it'll be right at the end of the window. It won't be yet. It'll be at the end of the window. I've put two and two together and I come up with five. Sheikh Jazim wants to have a statement signing. Sheikh Jazim has links, it is believed, with PSG. Nobody knows, okay? This is pure speculation, okay? But what's to say that Sheikh Jazim, like you said to me, Ten Hag doesn't know how much money he's got to spend. Ten Hag has been told what the budget is. It's about 120 million. So to go and spend 55 million on Mason Mount doesn't make any sense when we need a striker and we need other positions as well. But what's to say that Sheikh Jazim, what you've got to bear in mind is Ten Hag's budget is with the club in the situation that it's in now, with all the debt that we're in and everything. If Sheikh Jazim comes on board, he's going to clear that debt. Granted, we'll have financial fair play against us, and we'll have to stick to those kind of rules. But, Sheikh Jazim can be saying, look, 120 million is your budget, plus player sales. But when this goes through, you've got another 200-300 million to spend. We spent 200 million last year, or 250 million last year, under financial fair play. So what I'm saying is Sheikh Jazim might have said, look, cool the Harry Kane talks for the moment. If Harry Kane is who you really want, let the FA and all them do the fair and fitness test. Let's get this gone through, and we go back in for him at the end of the window. No, same with Mason Mount. It's like, if we bid anything more for Mason Mount, but there's talk now of us going in for Caicedo this morning. That's gathering pace online, and I would rather spend money on someone like Caicedo than 55, 60 million on Mason Mount. Mason Mount is good, but at this stage we don't know if it's somebody that Ten Hag wants. There's the talk of the goalkeeper, De Gea. Ten Hag has said that he wants best in class in all positions. So he wants a challenger for De Gea. So it might be the case that he said to De Gea, look, you will play, but you're not going to play every game, because if we sign Onana or Costa, you're going to have to fight for your place, because they are going to be my first choice. Now, if De Gea leaves, people say it's a bad thing that we haven't got a replacement. If De Gea leaves, it's 275, 300 grand off the wage structure a week. Frees up more money. I just think that's all. That it is frustrating not knowing where we are, but let's get something straight. The Glazers never said, when they made this announcement 7-8 months ago, they never said we are selling. They say, and we're looking at options which could involve either a full sale or partial investment. Now, partial investment, under the new guidelines now that the Premier League and the FA have brought out about leverage buyouts, Jim Radcliffe couldn't buy the club on a leverage buyout, so he'd have to look at it a different option. Now, my understanding is Radcliffe's bid was a leverage buyout because he couldn't afford to put the money up as a lump sum, and Radcliffe wanted to keep the Glazers on board. So, we'd all saying, people are going mad. Oh, why isn't there an announcement? Why isn't it this? Why isn't it that? Myself included. But, we have to remember these things take time. Now, Sheikh Jazim wouldn't have put the 9-2 Foundation registered business with Company House, which has to happen for it to go through. All the things, the 8 to 12 week process and things like that after the club has been sold. All this might have been going on. The Glazers might have accepted Sheikh Jazim's first bid or the third bid. They might have accepted the third bid. Since that third bid has gone on, we've already had maybe 5-6 weeks since that third bid was put in. So, the 8 to 12 weeks then doesn't seem that long. I mean, it might be a case, because there was talk, wasn't it? Reuters were reporting that the Glazers were going to enter into an exclusivity period with Al-Thani. But what I'm hearing is that exclusivity period has gone, and it'll be the next announcement will be now that they've completed the sale. So we could be sitting here, and in 2.5 hours' time, we could be having a breaking news story that'll smash the internet to say that Manchester United have today announced the completion of the sale of the club, full sale of the club to the 9-2 Foundation and Qatar. And then, Ten Hag's back in work next week. Sheikh Jazim just goes to Ten Hag and goes, right, there's your budget, go and get it you need. And, he goes off and he does it. Sheikh Jazim would want a statement signing. There's talk of Mbappe. There's talk that he wants to bring Mbappe there. Now, I think Mbappe is a shoe-in to go to Madrid. But, what's to say that he hasn't said to Ten Hag, look, forget about Kane. You can have Mbappe. You don't need Harry Kane. You can have Mbappe. And Ten Hag's gone, well, fair enough, fun. We'll have Mbappe. Nobody knows. And you've got all these in the knows on Twitter saying, oh, it's going to be announced. It's going to be announced. There's a guy on TikTok. His name is Mr. Insider. And I've been following him just for a laugh more than anything. He's come out and he's like, today's the day. It's going to be announced. My sources are telling me it's done. My sources are telling me Harry Kane is coming. Kylian Mbappe is coming. And I'm like, But then he'll put a video out like that and nothing will happen. And like, you know, he's doing them every couple of days. He's like, oh, I might have got my dates wrong. But, you know, my impression, my understanding is from my sources that it is happening and this will happen by the end of the window. Man United will be, you know, he is adamant. He's like, by the end of the window, Man United will be owned by Qatar. Harry Kane will be a Manchester United player. Kylian Mbappe will be a Manchester United player. And we will be back where we belong. And he is 100% adamant. But I mean, I know your thoughts are that the Glazers are not going to sell. I mean, what's your reasoning and your thinking behind that?
I think it's the same as most fans. I think just to touch on some of the points you just made there, obviously when you mentioned about the protest that's going to happen outside the mega store tomorrow, what kind of an impact that's going to have, we don't know, because we know there's been protests at Old Trafford before, and the Glazers haven't really been that bothered about it. You know, they don't live in this country, so they haven't really been that worried about the protests before. I, for one, the shirt I got on is about 2 or 3 years old. Still got the old Chevrolet sponsor on it. So I won't be buying any. I won't be going to buy the new United shirts until the Glazers are sold. I think, you know, it will send out a message with the protesters being there tomorrow. It'll be another something else that the Glazers won't want, and fans outside protesting, especially outside the mega store.
I think the aim of tomorrow is to try and like stop people going in the mega store and lining their pockets. I think that's the aim of tomorrow because the kit is being launched tomorrow. There'll be like some kind of media presence there, whether it be club media or Adidas will have representatives there. But I think the aim of tomorrow is to get the message across. You know, look, we don't want you going in there and spending money, lining the Glazers' pockets. So I think tomorrow is more of a case. There'll be a lot of people in work tomorrow, but I think tomorrow is more of a case of, you know, it's one final push to let them know, you know, look, we don't want you at our club. Do you know what I mean? But look, they know that they're not wanted there. And I, to a degree, but I agree with you. You know, having this protest tomorrow is not really going to have an impact. But you know, if there is an announcement this afternoon, you know, the protest won't go ahead then tomorrow. Do you know what I mean? It's like, look, I get where you were coming from, right? And you made a couple of valid points by saying that it's all pointing to them not selling, which it is worrying. But I mean, you know, you've got to try and remain positive about it. Like, I'm looking at the transfer window, and the fact that we haven't signed anyone yet isn't that bad of a thing. It's not. You know, they've obviously we'd allowed to bid for players, but obviously nothing has been signed off yet. Because let's have a look at it, right? What you've got to look at is that the Glazers, everything the Glazers have got at that club is an asset. Okay, so Harry Maguire is an asset. Yeah.
Yeah.
Harry Maguire is an asset. So the Glazers sanction off 80 million for Harry Maguire. If Newcastle come in now and go, we'll give you 40 million for Harry Maguire, then the Glazers are like, well, hang on a minute. We paid 80 million for him. You know, we're not losing 40 million on him. Whereas, like, so they're not going to agree to selling anybody, and they're not going to agree to allow anyone to come in, because obviously if Mason Mount comes in, they've got to use £55 million then to bring him in, which is then adding value to the club. If they go and sign Harry Kane for 100 million, that's adding value to the club. It's adding to their assets. So the fact that they are not sanctioning anything at the moment is frustrating. But, you know, Altani could come in and he could say, right, there's all the debt gone. You know, the club is debt free. If you want to sell Harry Maguire, you sell Harry Maguire, there's extra money in your transfer kitty for you. Whereas if the Glazers were to sell Harry Maguire, they would just take that 40 million and, you know, they'd line their pockets with it. So I think the fact that there's no transfer business going on at the moment, I don't think that's a sign that we're not selling the club.
Yeah.
Or that the Glazers are staying. Because like if the Glazers are staying, we would have signed somebody. The fact that we haven't signed anybody and the takeover talk has gone very, very quiet. Media outlets are saying, the Glazers are likely to stay. It's the Glazers' fault. Oh, excuse me. 2 weeks ago, they were saying that Radcliffe had won the bid and Radcliffe had won exclusivity with them. Within 24 hours, then it was Altani's won exclusivity. The press don't know. We are the biggest club in the world, right? We sell papers, front headlines, back headlines. But because there's nothing going on with the takeover at the moment and nobody really knows, there would have been NDAs that would have had to been signed, yeah?
Yeah.
I mean, Rio Ferdinand come out and done that video. Now, Rio Ferdinand has got links to Qatar because he's done work for Visit Qatar and things. He's like an ambassador for Qatar. For Rio Ferdinand to come out and say something like that, granted, nothing has happened with it yet, but for Rio Ferdinand to come out and say something like that, he must have either massive bollocks or, his reputation's on the line. For him to come out and say, I've heard it's done. He did the same with Ronaldo. He came out and he said, Ronaldo's coming back, and nobody believed it. Then a couple of weeks later, then Ronaldo signed. So I think that the Glazers would be silly to stay because of the investment that's needed in the club, and it's money they haven't got. But I wouldn't put it past them to leave the transfer window closed and then announce that they've sold just to screw us over one last time.
Yeah.
But, I don't know. I mean, I'm cautiously optimistic of the fact that this last week, and I think you'd agree with me, this last week has gone very, very quiet, i.e. takeover talk. It's all been Mason Mount, linked with players. There's been no talk about takeover now for a week. Now, that may be that, it's being finalised and there's a lot of paperwork to go through because they'd be working day and night through this. They would have been, if it needed to be finalised by today, they would have been working day and night. They would have been working throughout the weekend to get it finalised. It's not like, you're buying a house. You buy a house, that can take months sometimes with delays and things like that. It's buying a multi-billion pound football club for billions of pounds. We're talking £6 billion. So it's not like you're buying a car and it'll be signed off and it's all good to go. There's loads of checks going to have to be made. Where the money's coming from, how it's being financed. Is it, is it legal? Do Altani and his owners pass the fitness and fair test by the Premier League? All this would have to be done. They were told as well to register on Company's House. So, if exclusivity or a full sale is granted, they can take over straight away. Now, with the way that it's been set up at the moment, because Sheikh Jazim's 9-2 Foundation is registered on Company's House since the 15th of June, if the Glazers announced today or Rain Group announced today that the Qataris have taken ownership of the club, they can start work on the club today. The club is theirs from today. If the announcement is made today, they are the new owners of Manchester United from today because they registered, they're ready to go. And, they could turn around and say, what happens if they turn around and say the sale was completed 2 weeks ago? How are fans going to feel then? Do you think fans would be up in arms because there hasn't been an announcement until now? Or do you think they'd be over the moon?
Well, yeah, the fans are, I think the fact that, if they hadn't made an announcement 2 weeks ago, I think it's irrelevant. I think, every single United fan in the world wants, you've got to say 99% fans will want the Glazers gone. And it could be that the fact they are just waiting for the right time for it to be announced. And just go back on to the points I was making about, especially about the protest. And obviously, it's going to be good to see the fans there protesting. What the numbers will be like there tomorrow, we don't know because a lot of people are going to be in work. But if it has an impact where fans are not going into the Mega Store and spending money on shirts or other merchandise inside the Mega Store, it is going to have an impact. And I think the Glazers will think about what they're doing. The fact that the financial, like you said, the financial records are coming out tomorrow. I think the same as you. I think if profits are down, then I think the Glazers will sell because they're not going to be able to keep on running the club if there's no money there to invest in the club. I think the concern for me is if the profits are up and if the club have made a huge profit over the last, say, 6-12 months, does that encourage the Glazers? Does that encourage the Glazers to stay?
Well, I mean, they know how much the club is worth, and they know how much the club could be worth in the future. Do you know what I mean? So, I mean, what you've got to look at is they're not getting any younger. I would imagine that if Sheikhs has bought the club, there would have been lucrative offers put in there for them to take their baseball team out to Qatar to play some games, and it would have been like a healthy little payoff for them. Listen, the chances are that when we announce our things tomorrow, the bank balances are not going to look that bad because we still make a profit. Do you know what I mean? We're one of the most profitable clubs in the world. So even though the stadium is rotting and the Glazers might not have any money, but I mean, the last time that the results come out, for the first time they didn't take dividends out of the club. Now, does that point to the fact that they're selling the club? Because, why would they take money out of the club if they're selling the club? Do you know what I mean? The club may have changed ownership by the time that the last things come out in March. The club might have been owned by Al Thani since March, and it's still in the process of being put through. Listen, I speak highly of Al Thani because I want new owners. Radcliffe, I was okay with Radcliffe until obviously it came out that he wanted to keep the Glazers on board, and my concerns to you, I spoke to you about that. If we get 4 years down the line then and we do become successful again, and the Glazers are still in charge, they might just say, well, 4 years ago we wanted 6 billion to walk, we want 10 billion each to walk now. And, if Jim Radcliffe hasn't got that kind of money, then they stay on in another role. Do you know what I mean? It's like, whereas I think there's a, I'm not an expert on shares, right? But there's a lot of things with A and B shares as well. I think A class shares and B class shares and so on and so forth. And I think the Glazers they want a clean sale. They don't want, they don't want a sale that could have legal things with it. It could have like legal implications to it. Whereas with Qatar, it's just a clean sale. It's 100% of the club. The debt is cleared. Glazers go off for the money in their pockets. A lot of fans are saying to me, like, if we get Qatar, we'll spend 500-600 million. It doesn't work like that. We're not going to be able to spend that kind of money. There'll be money there, but I don't think we'll see the fruition of it till next summer at least. But, it is worrying, but I think a lot of, me, myself included, we got into a bit of a heated debate last night on Facebook. Because you were saying that you think that they're not going to sell. I was saying, look, I think they will, and that's what's happening. Is fans getting overall. I've had United fans getting uppity with me about it, not just you, but other United fans as well, saying they fed up a bit. I've had some United fans that have said that it's affecting their mental health and everything. It's not good. I think we just need to let it take care of itself, and what will be. I think the main aim is that as a fan group, we stay united, and the main goal is as I said, Glazers out. Every tweet that I send now, the club put a tweet out the other day advertising their home kit. I put on there, announce that you sold the club, #Glazers out, #Glazers is scum. hashtag, Glazers not wanted, and they got so much the other day. The Man United had to turn off comments on the new kit launch because nearly every comment on there was like, "Why haven't you sold the club? Why haven't you sold the club?" And it's just a case of that we all want the end goal. We want a football club run by footballing people to make the right decisions. And we could be sitting here now, right, thinking that I certainly could be sitting here thinking that Qatar is the best option for the club. The Qataris could, let's say the Qataris take over, they give Ten Hag a season and he doesn't win a trophy and then they get rid of him, might be devastated.
Yeah.
He doesn't fit what they want. He doesn't fit the type of the profile of the manager that they want. So nobody knows, what it's going to be like. It could be 10 times worse under new ownership. And we could be saying, I wish we'd still have the Glazers. Do you know what I mean? It's like nobody knows. But I think for people to, like for me, I followed football long enough and I followed enough people long enough to know that, like, I think the fact there's been no news on the takeover and it's the press changing the narrative, I think that's a good thing. I mean, the press will always change the narrative. The press don't want Qatar to take over because, we've been successful under the Glazers. Granted, we've had a bit of a dry period. But, as well as I do, and I've said this to you, we are one of the most profitable clubs anyway. You imagine how profitable we could be and what we could do if we don't have any debt on us or we're not restricted to transfer windows. I remember a couple of transfer windows, and I always remember it was Edward Wood, and he gave an interview for MUTV, I think. And he was saying something like, we can sign such and such a player. And I think it was about Schweinsteiger when we said Schweinsteiger. That's how long ago it was. And he was like, we can do things in the transfer market that will send shockwaves around the world and scare other people. And that's going to shake a few things when Schweinsteiger signs. And I was like, it's Bastian Schweinsteiger. He's over the hill. We should have signed him like 10 years ago. Why is that? I mean, that's why I'm glad the people like him now have gone. But I mean, I still think there's idiots running the club. Richard Arnold and John Murtough. I mean, they can't seem to negotiate for more than one player at a time. But, if, look, listen, there's a lot of things that need to happen, okay? But the thing is that I agree with you, the club need to be told, and us as fans, I said the other day, I was talking to a Liverpool fan, and I said, as fans, we've got a right to know. And he was like, why? And I was like, because it's our club. No, it's not. It's the Glazers club. They can do what they want with it. If they want to sell, they can sell. If they don't have to. And it's like, they won't be thinking, it's about time we let the fans know what's going on with the club. They'll just be like, we'll decide when we decide. And even if they have decided, El Thani might have said, look, I don't want nothing announced until it's 100% and I've got control of the club. Do you know what I mean? So the delays and stuff might be coming from Al Thani. He might have said, look, once this fair and fitness test comes back from the Premier League, which is expected to be back, let's say, today or Friday, we'll announce, if it comes back Friday, we announce it Monday and we go Monday. So it might not be the Glazers that are delaying it. There was talk last week or the week before that one of the Glazers is this is what tells me the press don't know what they're talking about, because one report said one of the Glazers was unsure of selling. I think it was, it wasn't the ratty looking one, it was another one. I think it was Brian, it was undecided. But then 2 or 3 days before then, there was a report that said that the whole family were in agreement that a full sale of the club should happen, and that's what the delay has been. So the press will write anything to sell stories. If it was announced today that Qatar were taking over, I guarantee you by the end of the week, we would be linked with Kylian Mbappe, Harry Kane, Neymar. There'd be 3 or 4 names, and it'd be like, oh, Man United are signing them now. And you imagine, like we've been linked with over 200 players, right, already. So you imagine how many players we get linked with if we've gone on debt and we've got, 300-400 million to spend.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you're right there. The price will, is a club as big as Manchester United. The press will write anything just to get people talking.
Because there's nothing going on with the takeover. That is why they write in about, Mason Mount, and they write in about, Caicedo, and they write in about other things, because they just think if we're not on the back of the paper every day, then it's like they've got to think, how can we get them on the back of the paper? So, for them to say,
I mean, in regards to the transfer side of things, it's I know the team are back in pre-season training next month, but we know that United can get players for it all very quickly. We had this conversation. I think it was last night or this morning. Like I think you said, we don't know if for all we know, players are already been signed, and they're just everything's all going to come out at once. For all we know, we could have gone and signed Mbappe or Harry Kane, and they are just waiting for the takeover to happen, and then they're going to announce that we've just signed Harry Kane or Mbappe. I think the worrying thing is, obviously, I think the longer this goes on, we're missing out on players that we should be bringing in.
But it's like, as I said, we don't know. These players that we think that we're missing out on, they might already be done. I mean, it's highly unlikely that they're not. But, they might already be done, or they might just be, terms, go back a couple of windows ago, Alan Shearer, many, many years ago. He was on the verge of signing for us, and Newcastle pipped him last minute. Nobody knows. The only people that know what's going on. I mean, I would imagine that, Ten Hag is back in work today. I think he's already having work done on the pitches in Carrington, ready for next week, because I've seen photos of the pitches being worked on in Carrington, getting them up to speed for the new season. So he's back in work. I think I read that he's back in work today, planning for the new season already. I don't think he is the type of manager to not know what's going on at the club, or not demand to want to know what's going on at the club. He has already been told what's happening. He probably already, let's just say that the club has been sold. Ten Hag will know that the club has been sold. But he's not going to come out and give a statement and go, oh yeah, by the way, we were sold 5 months ago. We've been working on bringing these players in. Can you imagine the internet if, you said there that, we might have signed Mbappe, we might have signed Kane, we might have signed Mason Mount, we might have signed Caicedo, we might have signed Declan Rice. Can you imagine if, the day it's announced, Ten Hag holds a press conference and he walks in the room and he's got Mbappe, Kane, all by the side of it? How much the internet would just blow up. I mean, it would never happen like that. But the truth of the matter is nobody knows. And there's a lot of in the knows saying, oh, yeah, my source is telling me. Like, there was a girl last night that put on Twitter, one person put on Twitter, somebody's just got in touch with me who works at Old Trafford and told me it's being announced tomorrow afternoon the club is sold. Now,
it wouldn't work like that, would it?
No, but you could go online now. You could go on Twitter after speaking to me, right? And you could put a tweet out there and go, I've just had it from a very good source. Kylian Mbappe, the Man United, is done. Watch this space. That would get loads of interactions, it'd get loads of retweets, it'd get loads of follows. And then you imagine then if in a couple of weeks' time and Mbappe did sign for us, people would be like, fucking hell, Andrew Lloyd, he said about that. He said that weeks ago. So people will do it for likes, clicks, follows, as you said. But there are people out there that, somebody out there.
I think the fact that Rio Ferdinand has come out and said...
That's what done it for me. The fact that Rio Ferdinand done it, there must have been something with that. But, obviously, the annoying thing is, Rio Ferdinand said hours, if not days, and nothing has been announced. So, whether or not you take that with a pinch of salt, I sent you last night. The Rio Ferdinand have started following Altani's son on Instagram. Listen, there are people out there that know what's going on. And there are people out there, maybe we don't need to know yet because nothing's been finalised. So, you imagine if they turn around last week and said, yeah, the club has been sold, subject to terms and conditions, and then something happened and then they had to announce saying, the club can't be sold because the new owners failed the fitness and fairness test. How bad would the club look if they communicated the club had been sold and then they were like, actually, the deal can't go through now because of X, Y, Z? So, the people in the know will want to make sure that everything is spot on.
Yeah.
And, it could have been a case that, we could be in a case where the Glazers still don't know what they want to do. But if that is the case, then the Glazers need to release a statement and say, look, we're still undecided. At this stage, nothing is happening. But that hasn't happened. If Jim Radcliffe makes a statement and says, we've pulled out, Altani's the front runner, that won't happen. So if anything's going to come, it's going to come from the Rain Group because they're the one facilitating the sale. They're the ones that's going to want the exclusive. But, Reuters reported as well that a period of exclusivity has been entered with the Qatari. There was Qatari news agents that were retweeting that. Qatari journalists were retweeting it. Now, it's a criminal offence where you face the death penalty for, speaking lies out in Qatar. They've got links to the Qatari royal family. So, it's like, if there's stories being put out about them by Qatari journalists, then I would sooner believe them than Jim down the road that's got an insider at Old Trafford that's told him that it's happening. But, I think it's strange how Radcliffe has gone quiet. I think it's strange that it's gone very quiet the last week. And the fact that we're not buying anyone or selling anyone.
Yeah, I agree.
Leads me to the fact that, that something is cooking.
Yeah, I think Radcliffe, him coming in, I think, like you said, it'd be a very complicated process. He doesn't have the money to buy Manchester United, and even if he did try and buy Manchester United, there'd be people asking questions, want to know where the money's come from. So I do think he is out of the race. I'd be very surprised if he
comes out and says, I'm out of the race, then people are going to be like, oh, well, Qatar have won it then.
Yeah.
But, Altani might have turned around and said to him, look, you are out of the race, but don't say nothing until, it's been announced. They all have to sign NDA. So the only people that know what's going on with the club are Jim Radcliffe and Ineos, the Glazers, and Altani. And the Rain Group. Those are the only people that know what's going on with the club. Sir Alex, he probably doesn't know. Rio Ferdinand doesn't know, but he's probably heard rumours of, Sir Alex might know. Sir Alex might have phoned Rio and said, listen, son, it's done. The Qataris have got the club. It's just going to be a matter of weeks.
Yeah, I think, like you said, there's only certain people who are going to know what's happening at the football club, and everyone else is at the moment just speculating what's actually going on.
Listen,
I mentioned.
mentally prepared in myself, right? 2 weeks ago, right, when it was announced that Rio made that announcement, the share price went through the roof. 9-2 Foundation had registered on Companies House all on the same day. I was coming when I was getting drunk and getting ready to celebrate the Glazers gone. It's like it's gone on for so long now. That like if it come out today, I would just be like, "Oh, it's done." And it's just like it would be so underwhelming. Don't get me wrong, I'd be over the moon. I'd be ecstatic. But it's like we just need an answer. We just need a direction as to what's going on and where like what's happening. That's what's getting me down. It's every day. Like I've been looking at the share price today, and it's like there's no spike in it to suggest that anything is coming today. There's been no massive increase in it to suggest anything's coming. And from what I've seen on Twitter, there's nothing to suggest that anything's going to be announced today. Just that one tweet that I seen, but there's nothing to say that it's happening today. But it's just a waiting game, and it's the longer it goes on, as I said, it does get worrying because
Yeah, and I think that's one bit doubts in my head. I think I mentioned this to you a few days ago. My full process a few days ago is, are the Glazers just testing the water? I think, we now know how much we can get for the club if you sold it. And I mentioned to you in one of the comments, are they just testing the water and making the fans believe that they're selling, and then they turn around in August and say no, we're actually staying. And if they do give Eric Ten Hag money over the next 2 or 3 seasons, and then we somehow manage to win the league over the next 3 years, and we get to the semi-finals or the final of the Champions League, the valuation of the club is going to go up. And is there for process? So well, we know we can get double the amount if we win the league. If the club wins the league over the next 3 years.
Well, yeah, you get 6 billion when the club haven't won. They've won 1 trophy or 3 trophies in 10 years. How much can we get if they win? The league 3 years on the bounce. Listen, my concern is right. If the Glazers end up staying, Ten Hag will walk. That's my concern. My concern is if Ten Hag doesn't know what's going on, he would walk.
And I don't think it.
He is the type of manager to sort of like. What I'd like to think, he's the type of manager to demand what's going on and demand to know what's going on. And I don't think. And again, I might be wrong because I don't work for the club. I have no. My only association with the club is my love for the club and my support for them. But I don't think that Ten Hag at this stage would not know what's going on with the club. I don't think. I might be wrong, but I don't think that he wouldn't know what's going on with the club at this stage.
Yeah, and I think if the Glazers did stay, I don't think it'll just be Eric Ten Hag that walked. I think certain players will walk as well, because I think there'll become a point, if the Glazers remained in a football club, there become a point where some of the players wouldn't see any kind of progression. Because let's face it, we're not going to see the Glazers go and spend £150 million on Harry Kane. We're not going to see the Glazers spend £100 million plus on Mbappe. We're not going to, it's not going to happen under them because the money is not really there. Yes, we spent £200 million last summer. I think we've spent over £500 million in the last 5 seasons. A lot of that's been very poorly invested. The one thing I do want to mention, obviously, if we do sell, I think one of the main things that's going to change, and I'm sure you agree with me here, is the recruitment process when it comes to players.
Yeah, I'm saying. I listen. The fact that the Glazers have put money in has never been an issue for me, and I think I've been very vocal in that. The thing for me is the structure around how we... Hang on a minute, it's banging my door. Hang on a minute.
Hiya, lad.
Hi. What the hell is this? Yeah, like I've never said that them spending money hasn't been a problem. It's the way it's spent, and when you got people like John Murto and Richard Arnold trying to vie for transfers, it's like we need proper footballing people that know what they're talking about, the negotiators that will go in and go into bid such and such for such and such a player, and if we don't get him, we're going to walk away. Now that might be happening. Do you know what I mean? This new guy that's in charge of transfers, I think is it Matt Hargreaves, I think his name is.
Yeah.
He's recently started. So I think like that may be happening because we're seeing signs of it happening with the Mason Mount deal and things like that. But I think that, you know, it's got to be proper footballing people running proper things. Do you know what I mean?
Oh yeah, definitely. I think the evidence is there that things are going to change, and not just the ownership, but the backroom stuff as well. Because when you look at the type of players that we brought in, last season was a good season. We brought in Martinez, we brought in Christian Eriksen, we brought in Anthony. So there was some good signings last season. But when you look at seasons before, Harry Maguire deal, classic example. We spent £80 million on Harry Maguire, and I think the reason we spent so much money on Harry Maguire because there was no intelligence there from somebody in the back and saying, "Hang on a second, okay, he's an okay player, but he's not worth that. We need to move on and go and get somebody."
Well, Mourinho wanted him for 40 million.
Yeah.
The club wouldn't sanction it, and then we went and bought him for 80. You mentioned that Anthony. I think Anthony's not worth the money we paid for him. I've got genuine concerns about Anthony.
I think the problem is the club has been the club has been in such a state. The fact that other teams know that we're desperate for players, as soon as Manchester United come knock.
Jadon Sancho as well. Like, how much do we pay for him?
Yeah.
You know, and now we're listening now. We listen to offers of 40 million for him. Listen, the thing is, it'll get worse, right? If the Qataris take over, we'll have our pants pulled down even more. Because, like, they'll just be like, oh, well, they're owned by billionaires now. They can, you know, what they balking are paying 55 million for somebody who's got a year left on their contract for.
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean? It's like, listen.
The process of us overspending on players has got to stop. Because, you know, Jadon Sancho, he come with a massive price tag. Martial, Anthony, Harry Maguire, there's probably a few others in there as well. And it's all come down to poor recruitment in the background where we've had people at the football club who know nothing about the game, nothing about the recruitment side of things when it comes to players.
We've had investment bankers and banking people and finance people trying to broker football deals. And that's all coming from the Glazers, penny pinching. Well, not penny pinching, but, you know, trying to get things done on the cheap. And I do think that if the Qataris take over, you know, that structure needs to change. And as I've said, look, let's not be overly critical of the Glazers, right? Because you know my thoughts on them. I absolutely despise them. But they've given money for players. It's just, it's been mismanaged. And that's not down to the manager. You know, the manager goes every year with his targets and goes, this is what I'd like. And then it's like, oh, well, leave it to us and we'll do that. And then you've got people like Richard Arnold, Matt Judge, Ed Woodward trying to negotiate transfers. There was a couple of summers ago where we'd sent representatives of the club to go and see some agent And he wasn't even that player's agent. It was somebody doing a piss take. Like, it's like we're Manchester United, and there's things like that going on. Remember, they sent agents out to, was it Spain or something like that? They're supposed to be meeting with some player's agent, and it wasn't even the player's agent. No, that can't happen. And it's like the Glazers have always given money. Granted, it might not have been out of their own pockets, but they've always put money up. They've always taken money from the club as well. But it's just the structure of the club and the way the club is run is disgusting, and it needs to change.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I think when Ed Woodward was at the club, I think he's to blame for a lot of transfer dealings that we had at the football club. The way it was handled. And if you look at our squad, if you take players like De Gea, Martinez, Fernandes, Rashford, Varane, and Luke Shaw out to the occasion, there's not that many other players. How many of those other players can you actually think that would actually get in a top European team? It just shows how badly the club has been run. I said to you this morning, if the Qataris come in, yes, I want us to be successful, but I don't want us to become another Man City team. I don't want us to go out there and just buy success. I want it to be some kind of plan put in for the future. I'd like to see more of the youngsters coming through. I think I'd like to see Eric Ten bring more of the youngsters through into the club. Obviously, I want the club to be financially stable again.
I want us to run like a football club, like you said this morning. You couldn't have put it more perfectly, right? And I think we'll wrap up the video because we've done nearly an hour. You couldn't have put it more perfectly this morning. You just want your football club back, and you want to run like a football club, and you want to run by proper footballing people that cared about the club, cared about the fans, cared about the way the club is run, cared about how the ground looks, how the training facilities look. I mean, you look at Man City, you look at their training facilities, their stadium. We've probably got the worst stadium in the Premier League. And, they can put a lick of paint over it and go, it looks all right. But, it's time for change. And, it's mentality of players as well. Like, I've no doubt that Ten Hag has sat down and said to Harry Maguire, look, I don't want to anywhere near you. You can find a new club. You're not first. You're not even fourth choice anymore. But if Harry Maguire decides to stay, then the sad thing is he's taking comfort over, his career, and he's just like, oh, well, I'm sitting here, I'm on 200 grand a week. They can't end my contract because I'm under contract. They can't lower my wages because it's a signed contract that I've agreed to. I'm happy to just sit here and take the wages. Now, if he's choosing that, then...
But that needs to stop, though, because you look at players like Phil Jones. Look how many seasons Phil Jones was at the club. He should have gone years ago.
No, it needs to stop. But the sad thing is, if Harry Maguire's got 2 or 3 years left on his contract, and Ten Hag has said to him, I want you to go. You're not going to be not even my fourth choice centre back. And Harry Maguire's turn around and go, appreciate that, boss, for your honesty, but I want to stay and fight for my place. Ten Hag can't say to him, you have to go. I need you gone because he's under contract. So, Harry Maguire Harry Maguire's agent is going to turn around and say, well, listen, he's got another 3 years left of his contract. You pay us 15 million and he'll go. The club are not going to do that. So I think in the future, with any kind of transfer dealings and things like that, I think you'll see different approaches. You won't see players on 200-300 grand a week. Like Mason Mount, we went in for him the day the window opened. We bid. We were told, it's not successful. We went in again, told not successful. Went in a third time, not successful. We've walked away from it. We're like, all right, we leave it on the table. We'll come back to it. We'll walk away from it. You can see that there's deals trying to be done, but obviously we don't know what's stopping them. We don't know what the fork in the road is. Mason Mount seems very vocal that he wants to join us. But, we don't know. It could be the press saying that the deal is not completed. The deal could be completed, as I said. the deals could be completed, and it's just waiting for an official announcement. I think if we had an announcement today, the 1st of July is Saturday, between the 3rd of July, which is Monday, and us going on our pre-season tour, if the takeover is announced this week that it's completed, between the 3rd of July and us going on tour, I can see at least 3 or 4 new players coming in ready to go on that new tour. But it's all ifs, buts and maybes. We need that announcement to come this week for us to have any chance of progressing and building on what we had last season. If it doesn't come this week, I would start to get concerned, because Ten Hag wants at least 2 or 3 players in to go on the tour, and we go on tour in about 2 weeks' time.
Yeah, I think if it doesn't come out by tomorrow and the financial records to come out,
I wouldn't say by tomorrow, but I would say that if we don't hear nothing by the end of this week, then
I would have thought it would be tomorrow, because by then
I would have thought tomorrow. Today at the earliest, tomorrow at the latest.
Yeah, because by then we would know what the financial situation is. I think
the thing is, are the club going to want to announce that the club has been sold on the... Now, see, this is the thing. They could be very strategic about it. It's a new kit launch tomorrow. So if they announce the figures at 7 o'clock in the morning, and then 9 o'clock in the morning, the UK stock market opens and they go, boom, we sell in the club. Because as long as they notify the New York Stock Exchange that they're going to make an announcement, right? My understanding is that we haven't got to wait then for the New York Stock Exchange to open. So if they went to the New York Stock Exchange today and they said, look, we're going to announce to the world tomorrow at 9 o'clock in the morning, the Manchester United Football Club has been sold to Sheikhs and the 9-2 Foundation. As long as the New York Stock Exchange are aware of it, I believe that it can be announced. So we haven't got to wait for the New York Stock Exchange to open. The only time we would have to wait for the New York Stock Exchange to open was, let's say, for argument's sake, that as we are talking now, the final bit of paperwork has been signed. They can't announce it then until the New York Stock Exchange opens. As I said, I'm not a financial expert. I'm not 100% sure on it. But it would be very strategic of them as a football club to announce it tomorrow. Because then that takeover would not go ahead, and everyone would just go to the mega store, buy the shirts, and everything would go through the roof. Do you know what I mean? And the internet would break. Listen, if we get sold and it gets announced, the internet will break. Twitter will break. Everything will stop working because it'll be massive. It'll be the biggest thing to ever happen in football, in my opinion. But listen, it could come today. It could come tomorrow. If it doesn't come today or tomorrow, and it doesn't come by the end of the week, then I am not worried for the future of the club, but I'm worried for the future of the manager, and I'm worried that he will walk away. But I don't think he is the type of character to take fools lightly, and he would want to know what's going on. People are saying he's being kept in the dark and things like that. I don't think that's the case.
Would you say, though, say by this time next week, and there's still no announcements, do you think it is maybe then the fans start to worry?
Well, listen, the longer it goes on, the more worrying it becomes, doesn't it? But it's like, I think that if there isn't an announcement that we've been sold by next week, I think the club should release a statement to let fans know what's going on. But I don't know. I'm trying not to think about that. I'm trying to remain positive, and I think I've said to you all along, I think an announcement will come this week. But I've said that for the last... I thought it was going to come when Rio dropped his video. I thought it was going to come then. I thought, and the share price went through the roof, and 9-2 foundation. I thought it was coming on that Thursday, and I got all excited and ended up with egg on my face. So I don't know. I've looked on Twitter this morning. There's nothing. The share price isn't. There's nothing drastic on the share price to suggest that anything is being announced today. So let's just wait and see, innit?
Yeah, well, hopefully either it comes out today or it comes out tomorrow, or by the end of the week. And hopefully it is good news, and the Glazers are finally going, and we can move on as a football club. And then...
Well, exactly, but we will see. But it's been a pleasure, and let's just hope the next video we do, we are celebrating with a can in our hand, and it's with under new owners.
Well, I'll be absolutely gutted if it comes out tomorrow, so I'm in work, so I won't be able to do it.
So, I wanted to come out today so I can try and celebrate a bit. But, I'm in work tomorrow as well. But, listen, what will be. I was in work the day they announced that Sir Alex was retired, and I had to be sent home because I was so taken aback by it. So, we will see. But let's just hope that it's good news. The thing is, the stock exchange opens at 2:30, so it's an hour and a half before the stock exchange opens. But that announcement could come any time between 2:30 today and 10 o'clock tonight. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, it could come as soon as as soon as the stock exchange opens. They could come out and make an announcement then.
I would imagine, though, that if there was anything like that, the share price would be up, and there would be a few things on Twitter.
Yeah, that's true.
The current share price is down 48 pence on what it was. So there's no kind of movement in the stock exchange to suggest that anything is coming today.
Yeah, I think one of the positives you're going to take from it is that it hasn't dropped massively. I think if the stock exchange, if the share prices start...
No, that's the thing. And if it rises massively, it could be a thing. But as I said, I think the next 2 days are critical because obviously timings and things like that. But we will see. And obviously my shifts in work are changing as of potentially next week. So I'm going to have potentially a lot more free time in the week as well to do things. But what we'll do once we jumped off this video and you turn off the live, can you stay on the video?
Should be able to, yeah.
Yeah, because what I'll do, I'll talk to you and about my shifts and stuff off the camera, and then we'll try and get something sorted in to try and cover pre-season and stuff like that, right? But no, thank you for having me on, and been a pleasure. And anything you want to say to close it up, or?
No, we just want the Glazers out. Want our football club back. Want to see their club start being run as a football club, not as a cash machine, just for people like the Glazers to take money out of the football club and just take the piss out of us.
Well said, son.
And get every single United fan in the world will agree with that.
Yeah.
But it's been a pleasure having you on again, Gavin. You made some excellent points throughout the video. I think you've done a lot more talking than I have, but I think that was like the main reason I wanted to do the video. I wanted to get somebody else's opinion on what they thought was going on, and you made some excellent points. And hopefully we can come on again when the Glazers finally do sell. So thank you all for watching. Hope you enjoyed watching. We will speak to you soon. Take care.
Cheers.